The sound of gunfire pierced the Montana night as Olivia Hartley clutched her 3-month-old daughter Emma to her chest and ran, her breath forming small clouds in the cold spring air of 1885. She had waited until the ranch hands were asleep, until her husband Vernon was too drunk to notice her slipping out the back door with nothing but a small bundle of clothes, her daughter, and the locket her grandmother had given her. The money she'd been saving for months was tucked into her boot, not enough to start a new life, but enough to get away. The wilderness stretched before her, dark and foreboding. Olivia had grown up in Boston, the daughter of a banker who'd arranged her marriage to Vernon Hartley, a cattle rancher with land and prospects but a temper that had revealed itself only after the wedding vows were spoken. The baby in her arms whimpered, sensing her mother's fear. "Hush, sweet girl," Olivia whispered, adjusting the blanket to shield Emma's face from the biting wind. "We're going to be fine." But she wasn't sure they would be. The nearest town was 15 miles away, and she'd have to navigate by starlight. Vernon would discover them missing by morning, and he'd come looking. He always did. The bruises on her arms had barely faded from the last time she tried to leave. A twig snapped behind her. Olivia's heart jumped to her throat as she spun around, instinctively shielding Emma with her body. "You shouldn't be out here, madam." The voice was deep but gentle. In the moonlight, she could make out the silhouette of a man on horseback, his hat pulled low over his eyes. "Stay back," Olivia warned, her voice trembling. "I'm not going back there." The stranger dismounted, moving slowly as if approaching a spooked horse. "I don't know where there is, madam, but these woods aren't safe at night. There are wolves, coyotes, and men worse than both." As he stepped closer, the moonlight illuminated his features. He wasn't one of Vernon's men. His face was unfamiliar, strong-jawed with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners. He wore the practical clothes of a working cowboy, not the fine attire Vernon insisted upon. "My name's Rylan Xavier," he said, keeping a respectful distance. "I was tracking a mountain lion that's been taking calves from my employer's ranch. Heard a baby crying and thought I'd best investigate." Emma chose that moment to let out a wail, as if confirming his story. "She's hungry," Olivia said defensively. "And cold. We both are." Ryland nodded, his expression softening further. "My cabin's about 3 miles from here. It ain't much, but there's a fire and food. You and your little one are welcome to warm up." "I don't know you," Olivia said, taking a step back. "No, madam, you don't. But I'm offering shelter, not demands. You're free to leave come morning if that's what you want." He gestured to the dark forest around them. "This is no place for a baby." Olivia hesitated. Emma was shivering despite the blankets, and Olivia's own thin coat offered little protection against the spring chill. The weather in Montana was unpredictable, and a late frost could be deadly. "I won't go back to my husband," she stated firmly. Something flickered in Ryland's eyes, understanding, perhaps. "I ain't asking you to go anywhere you don't want to go." After a long moment, Olivia nodded. "Just for tonight." Ryland helped her onto his horse, then mounted behind her, careful to maintain a respectful distance as he reached around to hold the reins. Emma had quieted, lulled by the gentle rocking motion as the horse picked its way through the trees. They rode in silence until a small cabin came into view. It was humble but sturdy, with smoke curling from the stone chimney. "It's not much," Ryland said as he helped her down, "but it's warm." Inside, a fire crackled in the hearth. The cabin was simple but clean, a table with 2 chairs, a small bed in the corner, shelves stocked with provisions. A hunting rifle hung above the door. "You can take the bed," Ryland said, moving to stoke the fire. "I'll sleep by the hearth." Olivia stood uncertainly in the middle of the room, Emma bundled against her chest. "Why are you helping us?" Ryland's hands stilled on the poker. My ma ran away with me when I was 4. No one helped her. He straightened, meeting her eyes. She didn't make it through that winter. The simple truth of his words hung in the air between them. I'm sorry, Olivia whispered. It was a long time ago. He turned away, busying himself with a pot of stew that hung over the fire. You hungry? As if in answer, Olivia's stomach growled audibly, and a hint of a smile touched Ryland's lips. I'll take that as a yes. While Ryland prepared the food, Olivia settled on the edge of the bed and nursed Emma. The baby had been so good, so quiet during their escape. Now, in the warmth of the cabin, she seemed content, her tiny fingers curling around the edge of the blanket. Your daughter's mighty pretty, Ryland commented, setting a bowl of stew and a chunk of bread on the table for Olivia. What's her name? Emma, Olivia answered, surprised by how easily the conversation flowed. It had been months since anyone had spoken to her with genuine kindness. That's a fine name. Ryland sat at the table, giving her space. And yours, madam? Olivia. Olivia Hartley. She hesitated before adding, though I don't much care for that last name anymore. Ryland nodded, asking no questions though his eyes held understanding. Well, Miss Olivia, you and little Emma are welcome here for as long as you need. For the first time in months, Olivia felt the tightness in her chest ease. She wasn't safe yet. Vernon would surely come looking for her, but for tonight, in this small cabin with this quiet, gentle man, she could breathe. As Emma drifted to sleep, Olivia laid her carefully on the bed, surrounded by blankets to keep her from rolling. Then she joined Ryland at the table, falling upon the stew with hunger she hadn't realized was so sharp. This is good, she said between bites. Just beans and rabbit, Ryland replied with a modest shrug. Nothing fancy. It's better than anything I've had in months. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Ryland's brow furrowed, but he didn't press. Instead, he asked, Where were you heading tonight? Clearwater, she replied. There's a stage that runs from there to Helena. And from Helena. She trailed off, the enormity of her plan suddenly overwhelming. You got family somewhere? Olivia shook her head. My parents died last year. Influenza. She twisted the wedding ring on her finger absently. Vernon was the only family I had left. Until Emma. Ryland's eyes followed the motion of her hands. Your husband. He hurt you? The question was gentle, without judgment, but Olivia still felt shame burn in her cheeks. Yes. The admission felt both terrifying and liberating. He wasn't always cruel. Or maybe he was, and I just didn't see it until after we were married. Some men can hide their true nature, Ryland said quietly, until they think they own you. Olivia looked up, surprised by his perception. That's exactly it. Once the papers were signed and we moved out here, everything changed. He became possessive, controlling. When I got pregnant, I thought it might soften him. But it didn't, Ryland finished for her. No, Olivia whispered. It got worse. He started to drink more. The first time he hit me, I was 7 months along with Emma. She unconsciously touched her cheek, remembering. When Emma was born, I knew we had to leave. It took me 3 months to gather enough courage and money. Ryland's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. Clearwater's a good choice. Sheriff, there's a fair man. He might help. You know him? Saved his son from drowning in the river a few years back. He owes me a favor or two. Hope flickered in Olivia's chest. Would you put in a word for me? I'll do better than that, Ryland said firmly. I'll take you there myself when you're ready. The offer hung between them, weighted with implications neither was ready to address. Instead, Olivia finished her stew in silence, the crackling of the fire the only sound besides Emma's soft breathing. That night, despite Ryland's protests, Olivia insisted he take his bed while she and Emma slept on a pallet by the fire. As she drifted off, watching the cowboy's silhouette against the wall, she wondered if she had stumbled upon an angel in the wilderness, or if she was merely trading one man's control for another's. Morning brought clarity and the sweet smell of coffee. Rylan was already up, moving quietly around the cabin as he prepared breakfast. Emma, miraculously, had slept through the night, exhausted from their ordeal. "Morning," Rylan greeted, his smile reserved but warm. "Hope you slept well." "Better than I have in months," Olivia admitted, stretching. She felt oddly at ease in this stranger's cabin, safer than she had in her own home. "I've been thinking," Ryland said, handing her a cup of coffee. "Vernon Hartley's the big rancher over at Twisted Pine, isn't he?" Olivia's hand stilled midway to her mouth. "You know him?" "Know of him," Ryland clarified. "He's got a reputation. Not a good one." "Then you understand why I had to leave." Ryland nodded. "I do. But he's also got men. Lots of them. And they'll be looking for you." He ran a hand through his hair, concern evident in his eyes. Clearwater might not be far enough. The hope that had begun to bloom in Olivia's chest withered. "Then where?" "I don't have enough money to go farther." Ryland was quiet for a moment, considering. "I've been saving up. Got a small plot of land about a day's ride from here. Was planning to build a proper homestead come summer." Olivia waited, uncertain where he was going with this. "It's remote. Hard to find if you don't know where to look." He met her eyes steadily. "You and Emma could stay there while I sort things out with the sheriff." "Why would you do that for us?" Olivia asked, genuinely bewildered by his generosity. Ryland's gaze dropped to Emma, who had begun to stir. "Because everybody deserves a second chance at a life worth living." His eyes returned to Olivia's, intense and sincere. "And because I couldn't save my ma, but maybe I can help save you and your little girl." The simplicity of his answer, the raw honesty in it, moved Olivia deeply. "I don't know how I could ever repay you." "You don't need to," Ryland said firmly. "But we should get moving soon. Your husband will have noticed you're gone by now." As if summoned by his words, the distant sound of hoofbeats reached them. Ryland moved swiftly to the window, peering out cautiously. "Riders," he said, his voice tense. "4 of them. Still a ways off, but heading this direction." Fear clutched at Olivia's throat. "Vernon," she whispered, gathering Emma to her chest. The baby, sensing her mother's anxiety, began to fuss. Ryland moved with decisive efficiency, gathering supplies into a saddlebag. "There's a back way through the trees. My horse is fast enough to outrun them if we get a head start." "He'll kill you if he thinks you're helping me," Olivia said, panic rising in her voice. "He'd have to catch me first," Ryland replied with grim determination. "And I know these woods better than any of Hartley's men." Within minutes, they were mounted on Ryland's sturdy buckskin gelding, Emma secured against Olivia's chest with a makeshift sling Ryland had fashioned from a spare shirt. They slipped away from the cabin just as the riders crested the hill behind them. "Hold tight," Ryland instructed, guiding the horse through a dense thicket that concealed a narrow trail. "And keep Emma quiet if you can." Olivia nodded, murmuring soothingly to her daughter as they picked their way through the wilderness. Behind them, she could hear Vernon's voice, distant but unmistakable, barking orders to his men. They rode hard for hours, stopping only when necessary to rest the horse or for Olivia to tend to Emma. Ryland remained vigilant, his hand never far from the pistol at his hip. "We're heading north," Olivia observed as the sun moved across the sky. "Yes, madam," Ryland confirmed. "My land's just beyond the ridge of those mountains." There's a cabin there not much more than a hunting blind. Really? But it'll keep the rain off. Have you built it up at all? Olivia asked, trying to distract herself from the fear that still coursed through her veins. Some. Got the foundation laid for the main house. Was planning to work on it this summer. He glanced back at her. It's good land. Creek running through it, meadow for grazing. Soils rich enough for a garden. The way he spoke of it, with quiet pride and vision, made Olivia see it through his eyes, not just a plot of wilderness, but a future home. It sounds wonderful, she said softly. It will be, Ryland replied, a note of wistfulness in his voice. Someday. As dusk approached, they reached a high ridge overlooking a small valley. In the gathering shadows, Olivia could just make out the outline of a small structure beside a glimmering creek. There it is, Ryland said, a hint of pride in his voice. Not much to look at yet, but it's mine. Every nail and board. The cabin was indeed humble, a single room with a stone chimney, but it was solidly built, with a small corral for the horse and the beginnings of what might someday be a proper ranch house a short distance away. It's perfect, Olivia said, and meant it. After months of living in Vernon's ostentatious ranch house, which had never felt like a home, the simple honesty of Ryland's homestead was deeply appealing. They dismounted, Ryland supporting Olivia as her legs trembled from the long ride. Emma, remarkably, had remained calm throughout the journey, sleeping against her mother's warmth. You must be exhausted, Ryland said, concern evident in his voice. Let me get a fire going, and then you should rest. Inside, the cabin was spare but clean. A bed frame with a straw mattress occupied one corner, a small table and chair another. A wood stove stood against the stone chimney, and shelves held basic provisions. I don't come out here often enough to keep it properly stocked, Ryland apologized, lighting a lantern. But there's jerky and beans, and I can hunt for fresh meat tomorrow. It's more than enough, Olivia assured him. She settled onto the edge of the bed, cradling Emma as she nursed her. I can't believe we made it. Ryland busied himself with the fire, giving her privacy. We're not in the clear yet, he warned. Hartley's not the type to give up easily, especially with his reputation at stake. What do you mean? Olivia asked. Ryland's expression darkened. Men like that care about how others see them. A wife running off with his child? That's a blow to his pride. He'll want to save face. The truth of his words chilled Olivia. Vernon had always been obsessed with appearances, with being respected and feared. What can we do? I need to ride to Clearwater. Talk to Sheriff Johnson. Ryland stoked the fire, his movements deliberate. The law might not care much about a man disciplining his wife, but Johnson's a decent sort. If I explain the situation. You'd do that for us? Olivia's voice caught. Ryland turned to face her, his expression earnest. Miss Olivia, I made you a promise. I intend to keep it. Something shifted between them in that moment, a recognition, perhaps, of the bond that had formed in the crucible of danger and shared purpose. Thank you, Olivia whispered, unable to fully express the depth of her gratitude. You should rest, Ryland said gently. I'll keep watch tonight. Despite her exhaustion, sleep eluded Olivia. She lay on the bed with Emma nestled beside her, listening to Ryland's quiet movements as he tended the fire and checked the perimeter of the cabin. The weight of her situation pressed upon her. She was utterly dependent on the kindness of this stranger, this quiet cowboy who had risked everything to help her. Yet she felt safer here, in this rustic cabin with Rylan Xavier, than she had in months under Vernon's roof. In the dark of night, with Emma sleeping peacefully beside her, Olivia allowed herself to weep silently, not from fear, but from a complex mixture of relief, gratitude, and the first tentative unfurling of hope. Morning came with a gentle touch on her shoulder. Ryland stood over her, concern in his eyes. "You were crying out in your sleep," he explained softly. "I thought you might be having a nightmare." Olivia sat up, disoriented. Emma still slept beside her, undisturbed. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to wake you." "You didn't," Rylan assured her. "I was already up." He nodded toward the window, where dawn was just beginning to lighten the sky. "I need to head to Clearwater soon. It's a half-day's ride there and back if I push hard." Anxiety fluttered in Olivia's chest. "You're leaving us here?" "It's safer," Rylan explained. "If Hartley's men are watching the trails to town, they're less likely to spot you if you stay here." He hesitated. "Unless you'd rather come with me?" Olivia considered it. The thought of being left alone in the wilderness was frightening, but the risk of being seen in Clearwater, where Vernon had business connections, was even more terrifying. "No, you're right," she conceded. "We'll stay here." Rylan nodded, relief evident in his expression. "I've left the rifle," he said, gesturing to the weapon propped by the door. "Do you know how to use it?" "My father taught me," Olivia replied. "Though it's been years. It's loaded and ready, just in case." The gravity in his tone made it clear what just in case might entail. "I've left food and water. Should be back by sunset." He moved to the door, then paused, turning back to her. "Miss Olivia." "Yes. I want you to know." He seemed to struggle with his words. "I understand what it cost you to trust me. I won't let you down." The sincerity in his eyes moved her deeply. "I believe you, Rylan." He tipped his hat, a gesture both formal and endearing, then was gone. The day passed with agonizing slowness. Olivia tended to Emma, explored the small cabin, and watched the sun's progress across the sky. She found herself studying the foundations of the larger house Rylan had begun, imagining what it might become: a proper home with rooms for a family, a porch where one might sit and watch the sunset. It was a dangerous line of thought, she knew. This temporary sanctuary wasn't hers, and Ryland's kindness didn't mean he wanted a ready-made family imposing on his solitary life. Still, she couldn't help but admire the care evident in every board and beam, the vision of the man who had placed them there. As promised, Ryland returned at dusk, his expression grim as he dismounted. "What happened?" Olivia asked, reading his face with growing alarm. "Hartley was there," Ryland said, leading his horse to the corral. "In the sheriff's office when I arrived." Olivia's blood ran cold. "Did he see you?" "No. I stayed back, listened from outside the window." Ryland's jaw tightened. "He's telling people you're unstable, that you took the baby in a fit of madness. He's offering a reward for your return for your own safety, he claims." "And the sheriff believes him?" The thought made Olivia sick with fear. "Sheriff Johnson's no fool. He knows Hartley's reputation." Ryland ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. "But without evidence of mistreatment, and with you being Hartley's legal wife, the law is on his side," Olivia finished, despair threatening to overwhelm her. "The law, maybe, but not everyone." Ryland's expression softened. "I spoke with Doc Miller after Hartley left. He remembers treating you last winter, said you claimed to have fallen down the stairs." Shame heated Olivia's cheeks at the memory. "I was afraid to tell the truth." "He knew," Ryland said gently. "He's seen enough accidents to recognize what really happened. He's willing to write a statement on your behalf." Hope flickered weakly. "Will that be enough?" "Maybe not by itself, but it's a start." Ryland hesitated. "There's something else. I sent a telegram to a lawyer I know in Helena. He specializes in difficult situations. A divorce." Olivia could hardly say the word. Divorce was scandalous, nearly unheard of in proper society. Her parents would have been horrified at the mere suggestion. It's an option to consider, Ryland said carefully. But that's a decision only you can make. Olivia looked down at Emma, sleeping peacefully in her arms. What future awaited her daughter if they returned to Vernon? What kind of man would he teach her to accept? I need to think, she said finally. Of course. Ryland moved toward the door. I'll check the perimeter, make sure we weren't followed. Alone with her thoughts, Olivia rocked her daughter gently, weighing impossible choices. Divorce would mean scandal, potential poverty, and a lifetime of whispers. Returning to Vernon meant safety in material terms, but danger in every other way. And there was Rylan, this quiet, honorable man who had risked everything for strangers. What place could she and Emma have in his life? Was she merely trading one form of dependence for another? When Rylan returned, Olivia had reached a decision. I want to fight, she said firmly. For Emma's sake, if not my own. But I need to stand on my own 2 feet. Rylan nodded, understanding in his eyes. What can I do to help? You've done so much already, Olivia began, then hesitated. But I need to ask one more thing. Can we stay here, just until I find work? I can cook, clean, so I'm not afraid of hard work. You don't need to earn your keep, Miss Olivia, Ryland said softly. This place is yours for as long as you need it. I can't accept charity, Olivia insisted. I need to build a life for Emma and myself, one that isn't dependent on any man's goodwill. Something like admiration flickered in Ryland's eyes. I understand. He was quiet for a moment, thinking. There's a widow in Clearwater, Mrs. Peterson. She runs the dress shop. Mentioned needing help with fine stitching for the spring orders. That would be perfect, Olivia said, hope rising. My needlework was always praised back in Boston. I'll speak with her tomorrow, Ryland promised. He hesitated, then added, and in the meantime, you're welcome to stay here. I'll sleep in the lean to by the corral. Olivia felt a blush rise to her cheeks. I couldn't put you out of your own cabin. It's no trouble, Ryland assured her. Truth be told, I often sleep out there when the weather's fair. Can hear if anything approaches better. The practicality of his reasoning couldn't quite disguise the kindness behind it, and Olivia found herself smiling despite the gravity of their situation. Thank you, Ryland, for everything. His answering smile was brief but genuine, lighting his eyes in a way that stirred something unexpected in Olivia's heart. The days that followed established a cautious routine. Ryland would ride to Clearwater in the mornings, gathering information and supplies, while Olivia remained at the cabin with Emma. In the afternoons, he worked on the foundation of the main house, the rhythmic sound of his hammer a comforting backdrop to Olivia's own tasks. True to his word, Ryland had spoken with Mrs. Peterson, who agreed to consider Olivia for a position once the situation with Vernon was resolved. The doctor had provided his written statement about Olivia's injuries, and Ryland's lawyer friend in Helena had begun the complicated process of seeking a legal separation. But Vernon remained a looming threat. His men had been seen asking questions in Clearwater, and rumors circulated that he'd hired a tracker to find his missing wife and child. We need to be prepared, Ryland said one evening as they shared a simple supper of rabbit stew. If Hartley's men find this place, what can we do? Olivia asked, the familiar fear tightening her chest. I've been thinking about that, Ryland said, his expression thoughtful. The lawyer says we need evidence of Hartley's mistreatment, something more substantial than the doctor's recollection. Olivia frowned. What kind of evidence? The bruises have healed. Letters, Ryland suggested. Did you ever write to anyone about what was happening? Or keep a diary? Olivia shook her head, then paused, remembering. There was a letter I wrote to my aunt in Philadelphia. I never sent it. Vernon checked all my correspondence, but I hid it in my grandmother's Bible. That could be exactly what we need, Ryland said, excitement edging his voice. If we could get that letter. It's too dangerous, Olivia protested. Vernon never leaves the ranch unattended. There's a cattle auction in Billings next week, Ryland countered. If Hartley follows his usual pattern, he'll go himself to oversee the sale. It would be our best chance. The idea was terrifying, returning to the very place she had fled, but the potential reward was freedom. I'll do it, Olivia decided. But not with Emma. I won't risk her. Ryland's expression grew serious. Are you sure? I could go instead, if you tell me where to look. No, Olivia said firmly. It needs to be me. I know every creak in that house, every routine of the servants. And if I'm caught... She couldn't finish the thought. If you're caught, I'll be right outside, Ryland promised, reaching across the table to cover her hand with his. The touch was brief but comforting, his calloused palm warm against her skin. The plan took shape over the next few days. Ryland would ride into Billings to confirm Vernon's attendance at the auction, then escort Olivia to the ranch under cover of darkness. Mrs. Peterson, who had become an ally, agreed to care for Emma during the dangerous mission. The night before they were to leave, Olivia stood outside the cabin, watching as Ryland finished the day's work on the main house. In just 2 weeks, the framework had risen impressively, the outline of rooms taking shape against the backdrop of mountains. It's going to be beautiful, she said, approaching as he set down his tools. Ryland straightened, wiping sweat from his brow. It's coming along. There was pride in his voice, but something else too, a wistfulness. You've been working so hard on it, Olivia observed, even with everything else going on. Ryland shrugged, his gaze fixed on the structure. Gives me a purpose, something to work toward. A home, Olivia said softly. That was the plan. His eyes met hers, something unspoken passing between them. Still is, I suppose. Rylan, Olivia began hesitantly. I want you to know that once this is all over, Emma and I will find our own place. I never meant to impose on your life this way. A shadow crossed his features. You're not imposing, Miss Olivia. Even so, she persisted. You had your own plans before we came along. You deserve to see them through. Ryland was quiet for a long moment, his eyes returning to the half-built house. Plans can change, he said finally, sometimes for the better. Before Olivia could respond, Emma's cries carried from the cabin. She's awake, she said, turning toward the sound. I should feed her before we leave tomorrow. Ryland nodded, but as she walked away, he called after her softly. Miss Olivia? She turned back. Yes. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know. He hesitated, then squared his shoulders. These past weeks, having you and Emma here, it's the first time this place has felt like a real home. The simple honesty of his words struck Olivia like a physical force. In Vernon's grand house, with all its fine furnishings and servants, she had never felt at home. But here, in this remote wilderness with this quiet, steadfast man, she had found a peace she'd thought forever lost. For us too, she whispered, then turned quickly to hide the tears that threatened to fall. The following evening found them crouched in the woods that bordered Vernon Hartley's ranch. The main house stood dark except for a light in the kitchen where the cook likely prepared for the next day. As Ryland had predicted, Vernon had departed that morning for the cattle auction in Billings, taking several of his men with him. Remember the plan, Ryland said softly. In and out as quickly as possible. If anything feels wrong, you leave immediately. Olivia nodded, her heart pounding. She had changed into the plain dress Mrs. Peterson had provided, her hair hidden beneath a servant's cap. In the darkness, she might pass for one of the kitchen staff if seen from a distance. Be careful, Ryland urged, his hand briefly touching her shoulder. "I'll be watching from here. If you're not back in 20 minutes, I'm coming in." With a deep breath, Olivia slipped from the cover of the trees and made her way toward the servants' entrance at the back of the house. The door was unlocked, as it typically was until the cook retired for the night. Inside, the familiar smells of polished wood and beeswax assailed her, bringing unwelcome memories of the life she had fled. Moving silently through the darkened corridors, Olivia reached the master bedroom without encountering anyone. The room where she had spent so many fearful nights now seemed smaller somehow, less imposing. She moved directly to the wardrobe where she had hidden her grandmother's Bible behind Vernon's winter boots, a place he never looked. The Bible was there, its leather binding worn with age. With trembling fingers, Olivia opened it to the Book of Ruth, where she had tucked the letter detailing Vernon's abuse. The papers were still there, yellowed slightly but legible. Relief flooded her as she secured the letter inside her dress. She had done it. She had the evidence that might set her free. As she turned to leave, the bedroom door creaked open. "Well, well, what have we here?" The voice froze Olivia in place. It wasn't Vernon. The cattle auction would keep him in Billings for at least another day, but Frank Donovan, his foreman and most loyal man. "Mr. Donovan," Olivia managed, her mind racing. "I was just stealing from the master's house?" Donovan suggested, his thin lips curved in a cruel smile. "Or maybe returning to your rightful place. Mr. Hartley will be mighty interested to hear about this." He stepped into the room, blocking the only exit. Olivia's eyes darted to the window, but they were on the second floor, too high for a safe jump. "I'm not staying," she said firmly, her hand instinctively moving to protect the letter hidden against her heart. "I only came for something that belongs to me." "The only thing that belongs to you is what Mr. Hartley gives you," Donovan said, advancing slowly. "And he's been mighty generous, considering your deficiencies as a wife." Anger flared through Olivia's fear. "You know nothing about my marriage." "I know enough," Donovan sneered. "I know Mr. Hartley's paid good money to find you and that brat of yours. And I know there's a reward for whoever brings you back." He lunged suddenly, grabbing for her arm. Olivia dodged, years of avoiding Vernon's anger making her quick. She feinted left, then darted right, making for the door. But Donovan was faster, cutting off her escape. "Now, Mrs. Hartley," he said, his voice hardening, "we can do this easy or hard. But you're staying right here until the boss returns." As he reached for her again, a new voice cut through the tension. "I believe the lady said she's not staying." Ryland stood in the doorway, his pistol leveled steadily at Donovan's chest. Relief surged through Olivia. "Ryland, step away from her," Ryland ordered, his voice calm but commanding. Donovan's eyes narrowed. "Xavier, I heard rumors you'd taken up with Hartley's wife. Didn't think you were stupid enough to make 'em true." "I said step away," Ryland repeated, cocking the hammer of his pistol for emphasis. Donovan raised his hands slowly, but his eyes held a calculating gleam. "You think this changes anything? Hartley will hunt you both down. There's nowhere in the territory you can hide." "We're not hiding," Ryland replied evenly. "Miss Olivia has evidence of Hartley's abuse. The law will protect her right to leave with her child." Donovan's laugh was ugly. "The law? In these parts, Hartley is the law. Money talks louder than some woman's complaints." "Not this time," Olivia said, drawing the letter from her dress. "Not with this." Donovan's eyes narrowed on the papers. In a sudden move, he lunged not for Olivia but for Rylan, attempting to knock the gun aside. The two men collided with a grunt, grappling for control of the weapon. Olivia didn't hesitate. Clutching the precious letter, she ran from the room and down the stairs, knowing Rylan would want her safely away even if it meant facing Donovan alone. She had just reached the back door when she heard a single gunshot echo through the house. Her heart stopped. Who had fired? Who had fallen? Then footsteps pounded on the stairs, and Rylan appeared, breathing hard but unharmed. "Donovan," Olivia gasped. "Winged him," Rylan replied grimly. "He'll live, but we need to go. Now." They ran for the cover of the trees where Rylan had tethered their horses. Behind them, shouts began to rise from the ranch house as the gunshot roused the remaining hands. "Did you get what you came for?" Rylan asked as they mounted. Olivia patted her dress where the letter was securely tucked. "Yes, let's go home." The words slipped out naturally, and even in their haste, Rylan's eyes met hers with a warmth that had nothing to do with their desperate flight. They rode hard through the night, stopping only when the horses needed rest. By dawn, they had reached Clearwater, where Mrs. Peterson waited with Emma. The reunion was tearful, Olivia clutching her daughter as if she might never let go. The letter was delivered into the hands of Sheriff Johnson, who read it with a grim expression. "This is serious, Mrs. Hartley," he said, looking up from the detailed account of Vernon's abuse. "Combined with Doc Miller's statement, it might be enough to grant you a legal separation." "And protection?" Rylan pressed. "Hartley won't take this lying down." The sheriff nodded thoughtfully. "I can issue a restraining order, and I'll wire the federal marshal in Helena. This kind of case, it'll attract attention." "That's what we're counting on," Rylan said. "Men like Hartley thrive in shadows. It's time to drag this into the light." The days that followed were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. Vernon returned from Billings to find his wife gone again, and a federal marshal waiting with papers restricting him from approaching her or the child. His rage was reportedly towering, but even his influence couldn't override federal authority. The lawyer from Helena arrived, a stern-faced woman named Mrs. Blackwood, who specialized in cases involving abused wives, a rarity in the legal profession and a shock to the small town of Clearwater. "Your letter is compelling evidence," she told Olivia after reviewing the case. "And with the doctor's testimony, I believe we have a strong chance of securing not just a separation, but a full divorce with custody of your daughter." "A divorce," Olivia breathed. The word still carried weight, still promised scandal, but now it also offered freedom. "It won't be easy," Mrs. Blackwood warned, "and Mr. Hartley will likely fight every step of the way. But I've won cases with less." Throughout it all, Rylan remained a steady presence, offering quiet support without imposing. He had taken a room at the boarding house in town to be close during the proceedings, while Olivia and Emma stayed with Mrs. Peterson. One evening, as summer settled over the mountains, Rylan invited Olivia for a walk along the creek that ran behind the town. "The house is nearly finished," he said as they strolled, Emma sleeping peacefully in Olivia's arms. "Just needs the finishing touches inside." "You've been riding out there every day?" Olivia asked, surprised. Rylan nodded, his expression unreadable. "Needed to keep busy while all this legal business sorts itself out." They walked in companionable silence for a while, the babble of the creek a soothing backdrop. "Mrs. Blackwood thinks the divorce will be granted," Olivia said finally. "Vernon's reputation is crumbling. 2 more women have come forward, wives of his business associates, who witnessed his behavior toward me." "That's good news," Rylan said sincerely. "You deserve your freedom." "Freedom," Olivia echoed. "It's strange I've been so focused on escaping Vernon. I haven't really thought about what comes after." Rylan slowed his steps, then stopped entirely, turning to face her. "And now? What do you want for your future, Miss Olivia?" The question hung between them, weighted with unspoken possibilities. "I want safety for Emma," Olivia began. "A home where she can grow up without fear." Work that allows me to provide for her. She hesitated, then added softly. And I want what I've found these past months: peace, respect, and companionship. Ryland's eyes held hers, something like hope kindling in their depths. I've been thinking a lot about that day you tried to run into the night with your baby, he said quietly. About how I carried you both back to my cabin. I didn't know then how much you'd come to mean to me. Olivia's heart quickened. Rylan, I'm not a wealthy man, he continued, his voice gaining strength. I can't offer you the kind of life you had in Boston, or even with Hartley. But that house I'm building, it has room for a family. If you wanted. Are you asking me to marry you? Olivia whispered, hardly daring to believe. I'm asking if you might consider it. Once your divorce is final, Ryland clarified. I love you, Olivia. You and Emma both. I think I have since that first night, when you stood your ground in the forest, protecting your child with nothing but courage. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes, not tears of fear or sorrow, but of a joy so profound it ached. I love you too, she admitted. Your kindness, your strength, the way you see me, really see me. I never thought I'd find that. Is that a yes? Rylan asked, a smile beginning to curve his lips. It's a yes, Olivia confirmed. Once the divorce is final, I would be honored to become your wife. Ryland's smile bloomed fully, transforming his face. He stepped closer, carefully mindful of the sleeping baby between them, and gently cradled Olivia's face in his hands. May I kiss you, Miss Olivia? He asked softly. Yes, she whispered, closing her eyes as his lips met hers in a kiss that held all the promise of the future they would build together. 6 months later, on a crisp autumn day, Olivia Hartley became Olivia Xavier in a simple ceremony beside the creek that ran through their land. Emma, now a year old, watched from the arms of Mrs. Peterson as her mother and the man who had saved them both pledged their lives to each other. The house Ryland had built stood proudly behind them, a proper home with a wraparound porch, large windows to catch the mountain light, and rooms filled with the furniture Olivia had crafted with her own hands from the profits of her work at Mrs. Peterson's shop. Vernon Hartley had fought the divorce viciously, but in the end, the evidence against him had been too substantial to ignore. The scandal had cost him business connections and social standing, and he had eventually retreated to his family's estate in the East, leaving his Montana holdings in the hands of managers. As Rylan and Olivia shared their first dance as husband and wife on the porch of their new home, the setting sun painting the mountains gold, Olivia reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She had run into the night with her baby, desperate and afraid. And a cowboy had carried them both home, not back to a place of fear, but forward to a future filled with love. That night, as Emma slept peacefully in the nursery Rylan had built with his own hands, he drew Olivia into his arms in their bedroom. Happy, Mrs. Xavier? He asked, his voice tender. Happier than I ever dreamed possible, Olivia replied, resting her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. This is what a home should feel like. Home, Rylan agreed, pressing a kiss to her hair. That's what you and Emma gave me. A reason to build not just a house, but a life worth living. In the years that followed, their family grew a son with Ryland's quiet strength, a daughter with Olivia's determined spirit. The ranch prospered, becoming known throughout the territory for the quality of its horses and the warmth of its hospitality. And on summer evenings, when the work was done and the children played in the yard, Rylan and Olivia would sit together on the porch, her hand in his, watching the sun set over the mountains that had witnessed their beginning. Do you ever regret it? Olivia asked once. Taking in a desperate woman and her baby that night? Ryland's answer was a kiss that still held all the tenderness of their first. That night, he said when they parted. When I carried you both back to my cabin, I thought I was offering shelter. I didn't realize I was finding my way home. In the end, they had both been lost in their own ways, Olivia trapped in a life of fear, Rylan in his solitude. But in finding each other, they had discovered what it truly meant to be home.